Hey scholars, today we're going to be talking about some ELA. So the first thing I want to do is introduce Unit 2. We're going to be talking about animal discoveries. And let's go ahead and look down here where it says the big idea. How do animals play a part in the world around us? Again, our big idea is how do animals play a part in the world around us? I want you to take about 20 seconds to think about any animals that play a part in your world. So I will give an example now. For example, you see the bee right here. Well, bees are really cool because what they do is they spread pollen to other flowers and they help fruit grow. Without bees, we would be in a world of pain because we would lose a lot of our favorite fruits and vegetables. And over here, there is a poem called Animals Are Amazing by Winifred Califano. So a poem is essentially spoken word and it has rhyming structures and it sounds nice to hear. So there's a couple things I want you to think about while I read this poem. What do the animals do in the first stanza? Why are large and small animals in the poem? And what could you add to this poem? All right. So animals are amazing. Kittens mew and dogs play catch. Ducks and hens lay eggs to hatch. Animals are amazing. Bees make honey, lambs give wool, horses gallop, oxens pull. Big game lions prowl and roar, turtles crawl and eagles soar. Animals at work and play, all around me, night and day. Animals are amazing. So this poem has a couple things you can look at. First, let's talk about the animals that are in the first stanza. So what animals are in the first stanza, scholars? Kittens and dogs. Why do you think they started with kittens and dogs? They probably started with kittens and dogs because those are the most familiar animals to us. They are the most popular animals that people buy. And then why are there large and small animals in the poem? Well, the reason why is because we want to show that there are multiple types of animals that can do good for our world. So kittens are small. Bees are even smaller, but then you have horses and oxen, which are bigger than you and even me. So they want to show that animals of all sizes are useful. And what could you add to the poem? I'm going to let you think about that for about 10 seconds. What could you add to this poem? All right. So I think what I would add to this poem are just more examples of animals. Make it a little longer. It's a very well-written poem that probably does not need too many things added, but I would love to see different animals that we can add. Now, let's talk about the rhyme scheme of this poem. A rhyme scheme can be shown by letters that stand for the end sound of each line. So, let me see if I can get my pencil. So a rhyme scheme is how the words rhyme. So for example, do we see how there's the word catch right here and hatch right here? This is A and A because they both rhyme. And then we have animals are amazing. Now animals are amazing doesn't rhyme with catch and hatch, so let's call that B. Bees make honey, lambs give wool, horses gallop, oxens pull. So here, amazing doesn't rhyme with wool or pool, so we're going to call this C because wool and pool rhyme with each other. Now, big game lions prowl and roar, turtles crawl, and eagles soar. Well, roar and soar rhyme, so let's call this D, because these do not rhyme with the other words. We got hatch and catch for A, amazing for B, wool and pull for C, roar and soar for D. Now we have animals work and play all around me, night and day. So, this would be E, because these rhyme with each other, but they don't rhyme with anything else. And then animals are amazing. Where was animals are amazing? What letter was that earlier? It was B. So our rhyme structure is AAB, CCDD, EEB. It's one of the more simple rhyme structures. That's one that I would expect someone like me who's not really a poet to do, someone like you who's just getting into the world of poetry would do. And so that is rhyme structure. Now let's talk about a funny word called, I'm going to write it up here by Animal Discoveries. It's called onomatopoeia. This really funny word is actually a word that explains the word that an onomatopoeia is pronounced the way the action sounds. So I'm going to go ahead and erase. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. Okay, let's just ignore that. So, onomatopoeia is words like mew and roar. Basically, the word makes the sound that it's trying to, spelling out. So, for example, whenever you hear a bee, bees make the sound bzzz. And what do we call that sound? We call it a buzz because it sounds like what they do. So we go buzz when the bees go bzzz. So that is onomatopoeia. Or when we say dogs go woof and we hear a dog go woof, that's onomatopoeia. Another word that would be an onomatopoeia that we would do is like a sigh, like sigh. Or like, I'm going to give you guys a chance to think of words while I think of another word. So take about 10 seconds. So another word I thought of is when you make a basket in basketball and there's a net, you hear the swish. That would be an onomatopoeia because we call it a swish. All right. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next section, which is going to be our oral language. So I'm going to pull up a little presentation, if it lets me. Well, it looks like there isn't a presentation for this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull up a notepad. I'm going to pull up a notepad right now for you guys. All right. Just going to add a page here. Don't worry about this stuff. We're going to be working on that a little later. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce some oral vocabulary words. So, if you capture something, you use force to get or catch it. So this is going to be the word capture. you use force to get or catch it. I think of like capture the flag, where you have to run around and then you have to go into somebody's area, capture their flag, and bring it back. That would be capturing. So now I'm going to ask you, what is something you have tried to capture? What did you do to capture it? Go ahead and think about that for about 10 seconds. So that is capture. All right, the next one we have is chorus. A chorus is a group that sings or dances together. So an example is, I am going to sing in the chorus at school. So I think of like if you go to church, there's sometimes they have choruses of people who sing different songs. I think of like concerts with many people singing. And then an example that they give is, our example that they want to ask you is, why might it be fun to sing in a chorus? I want you to think about why it might be fun to sing in a chorus. Chorus. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one is croak. Croak's kind of funny. It's kind of like an onomatopoeia, actually, if we're going back to that, because frogs make a croaking sound, like some frogs do. Others, some frogs do a ribbit sound, which is also an onomatopoeia because we call it a ribbit. So, but for our sake, a croak is a low sound. And by low, it means a very deep sound. So you can sound like this. See, I made my voice a little deeper. An example would be if you have a sore throat, your voice tends to croak more. And that could actually be what Mr. Cannon has, because his voice is a little sore right now. So his voice might be a little deeper than usual anyways. And I'm going to ask you, a frog makes a croaking sound. What else sounds like a frog's croak? Okay. Go ahead and think about that. And we're going to look at the next word, which is going to be reason. Oh. Reason. This one's kind of a funny definition. The reason something happens is why it happens. The reason why you do something is why you do it. So an example is the bump in the sidewalk was the reason I tripped. So if that bump wasn't there, then you would not have tripped on the sidewalk. If the bump was not there, you would not have tripped on the sidewalk. So that's the reason why. The reason I got a bad grade on my test was because I didn't study. The reason why I didn't know what was going on in class on Monday was because I didn't watch Mr. Cannon's video. So a reason is why something happens. Now I want you to name something you like to do and what is the reason you like doing it. All right, great. Okay, now the last one we're going to talk about for this daily oral language is we're going to be talking about visitors. A visitor goes to a place to stay for a little while. A visitor goes to a place to stay for a little while. So a couple examples I can think of are maybe you have an aunt or an uncle or a brother or a sister who comes over just to spend the night. Maybe you have a sleepover with your friend and you go to your friend's house, so you would be a visitor. Or if you're in class and somebody comes in to drop something off, they're a visitor. An example is we had a visitor stay at our house for 3 days. Now let me ask, have you ever had a visitor? And what did you do with that visitor? Okay, and while you think about that, I'm going to get the next part set up for our lesson. Okay, we're going to look at something called swamp life. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this on my computer, not the iPad, because we won't be able to hear because my microphone's plugged in. So give me 1 second to pull that up on the iPad. Let me pull that up on my computer. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm going to put my microphone to my computer and we're going to start reading about swamp life.
Swamp life. Swamps are filled with many insects, birds, and animals. How do animals in swamps survive? Welcome, swamp visitors, Ranger Rachel said as she gathered a group of students from Mr. Litton's second grade class around her. Are you ready to listen? Yes, everyone shouted. Ranger Rachel put a finger to her lips. Shh, she said. Let's listen. Danny listened. At first, he heard nothing. No honking cars, no people talking, no loud vehicles, or faraway booming music. I don't hear anything, he said. Ranger Rachel smiled. Now, let's listen again, she said. Danny listened again. Soon, he was hearing sounds. All kinds of sounds. The more he listened, the more sounds he heard. Buzzing, humming, swishing, clicking, croaking, chirping sounds. After a while, Ranger Rachel took her finger from her lips. Can anyone guess what you heard? She asked.
All right, so that was our first slide. I want you to think about, what do you think that the ranger heard. How do you think things in swamps can stay alive? I'm going to give you a couple seconds to reflect on what we just read together. All right, so I'm going to start the next slide now.
I heard a bird singing, Kim said. I may have heard a frog croak, Danny said, but I'm not sure. I heard an insect buzzing, Pedro said. Dragonflies buzz, Ranger Rachel told him. Do you think it was a dragonfly? I'm not sure, Pedro said. Ranger Rachel pointed toward the water. Look, there's a dragonfly zooming up from the water. Careful, dragonfly. It must sense danger. Dragonflies buzz when they rub their wings together. Is that what you heard? Just then, the dragonfly zoomed past Pedro. Yes, Pedro cried. I heard the dragonfly buzz. Spring is here, Ranger Rachel said. The swamp is waking up after a long, cold winter. Snakes, fish, lizards, turtles, and beavers are coming out of their winter hiding places. Blackbirds, swamp sparrows, and other birds are stopping by as they fly north. The birds are visitors, just like we are. They will find plenty of food to eat and water to drink in the swamp.
All right, great. So one thing I understand is I accidentally went off of the page to set the next thing up, forgetting that I was recording. So never mind the stuff you just saw. That's okay. Mr. Can's getting all the kinks out this time because, it's his first time shooting the videos like this. But we all need to know that there is improvements no matter what we do. And by the next video, it's going to be even better and we're going to keep improving. And I'm really happy with you guys for sticking with me. All right, our next part is going to be this part.
Ranger Rachel pointed to a pile of twigs and logs and grass and mud in the middle of the swamp. Can anyone guess what that is? She asked. Did a beaver build it? Tico asked. Right, that's a beaver's home. It's called a lodge. Swamps are perfect for beavers. There are trees and branches to chomp with their sharp teeth and use to build their homes. There's water to drink and swim in, and plants and tree bark to eat. I didn't hear any busy beavers building and chomping, Danny said. Beavers come out at night, Ranger Rachel explained. They are nocturnal animals, like owls and raccoons, and some frogs. They are all asleep now because it is daytime. I'm wondering, Danny said. Yes, Danny? Ranger Rachel said. Well, people need to eat, so I guess animals in the swamp do too. So I'm wondering where they get their food. Creatures that live in or near the swamp have plenty to eat and lots of water to drink. That's one reason they live here. Can anyone guess what they eat?
So can anyone guess what they eat? Go ahead and think about that for just a second. All right, so I'm going to start the next part now.
Birds eat berries and seeds, Millie said. That's right, Ranger Rachel said. Some birds also eat worms, insects, and other bugs. What do dragonflies eat? Pedro asked. Ranger Rachel smiled. Dragonflies eat insects and mosquitoes. There are lots of those here. There's plenty of food and water here for everyone. There are plants for the tadpoles. There are seeds, berries, and worms for the birds. Frogs use their long, sticky tongues to capture insects for dinner. The animals all depend on each other to survive in the swamp. Let's listen to the sounds and guess the animals that make them. Chirp, chirp, tweet. I hear a bird, said Tico. Rustle, rustle. That must be a squirrel moving in the bushes, said Danny. Buzz. That's a mosquito, said Millie as she swatted around her head. Everyone laughed. Then the class closed their eyes. They listened to all the humming, buzzing, chirping, singing, swishing, hissing sounds, like a lovely swamp chorus, singing together.
All right. How did you guys like that story? I thought it was really cool. It was going over the life of the swamp, what animals need to survive, and how swamps are a nice ecosystem. An ecosystem is when things work together to make nature. Simple terms, but yes. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to transition to some phonemic awareness fun. So I already added it here. So I'm actually going to go over here. Okay, just make sure I'm clicking the right one. All right. So we're going to do something called phoneme addition. So add a sound to the beginning of words to make new words. So our current word is bowl. Oh, I forgot that I have to pull it up on this screen or else we're not going to be able to hear it. Okay. Here we go. We have phoneme addition up here. So the first word, the current word is?
Ox. Ox.
Yeah. So our current word is bowl, and our new word is?
Box.
Box. But. So we're adding the sound to the beginning of words to make new words. So the beginning sound here is
Ox.
but. And our new word is going to be?
Box.
Box. All right, so our initial sound is? Ah. X.
Ox.
All right. Our next one is, our current word is?
Ask.
Ask. Our new, so we need to find the word that pops up for mask. Oh, yep. So we have a, s, k. So what is this sound here? The sound. With the sound, we need to add that to the ask. So what word do we get?
Mask.
Mask. All right. T. A. P. So we have top. And we add an S. What word do we get?
Stop.
Stop.
A.
A. T. So we have a, t, and then our sound down here that we want to make the beginning is l. So if we put l, a, t together, what word do we get?
Late.
Late. All right. L, a, k. So we have lock.
Lock.
What happens when we add a b? So we have b, l, a, k. We get?
Block.
Block. All right.
In.
Our current word is in.
I. W.
If we have a w, what does this word turn into? W, I, Win. All right. Our current word is
Oat.
oat.
O.
O.
T.
T. What sound do we need to add to make our new word?
T.
T.
G.
G.
A.
A. So I think we need to add a G because we have a goat. So
G.
G.
O.
O.
T.
T. Here we have
Oat.
oat. Well, no, actually we have
Oat.
we have oat.
B.
What sound do we need to add
O.
to O
T.
T to get this picture?
B.
B. And we get
B.
B.
O.
O.
T.
T.
Boat.
Boat. All right. Our current word is
Take.
take.
T.
T.
A.
A.
K.
K. T. Take. So we have a S here. If we put the S here, we get S.
T.
T.
A.
A.
K.
K. Steak.
Steak.
I like steak. All right. Our current word is
Old.
old.
O.
O.
Ol.
Ul.
D.
D. So what if we put this letter in the front?
Hold.
We get hold. If we add a we get hold. All right, next one.
Old.
We have old again.
O.
O.
Ol.
Ul.
D.
D.
Old.
Old. What if we put the sound
G.
G in front of old?
Gold.
Gold. All right, guys, we're going to do one more and we're going to go to the next part. All right, our current word is
Own.
own.
O.
O.
Mm.
If we put a f in front, what word do we get?
O.
O.
Mm. Phone.
Phone. All right. So that was fun. A little interesting. I should have researched how to do that one a little better for the beginning, but I think I get it now. All right. So the next one we're going to look at is, we just did phonemic awareness. So now we're going to look at short O or long O. So let Mr. Cannon get his stuff up. So this is going to be our word work. So we're going to just look at the words together. We're not going to do too much with them right now. We're just going to look at them together. And then we're going to talk about whether it's long O, or short O, ah. So the first one is nose. Notice how there's an E at the end? Nose. So this is going to be a long O. Robe. Notice how we have the E. Robe. Pop. Pop. Notice how there's no E, so it's going to be ah. If there was an E at the end, it would be pope. All right. Knot. Notice how there's no E. Knot. If there was an E, it would be note. Job. Notice how there's no E? Job. If there was an E, it would be Job, but that's not actually a word. That would be a nonsense word. Pull. Notice how there's an E? Pull. If there was no E, it would be pol, which isn't a word either. All right. Globe. Notice how there's an E, so it's a long O. O. If there was no E, it would be glob. But I guess glob is a word. We use it, but I'm not sure if it's a real word or not. Rock. Rock. If there was an E, it would be roke. That's not actually a word. So this is a short O. Joke. Oh, how did that happen? Oh, that's weird. Joke. Notice how it's a long O because there's an E. Joke. If there wasn't a word, it would be jock, but jock is spelled differently. Drove. Notice how there's an E, so it's a long O. Drove. If there was no E, it would be drove, but that's not actually a word. Drop. Notice how there's no E, so it's a short O. Drop. If there was an E, it would be drope. Broke. Notice how there's an E, so it's a long O. Broke. If there was no E, it would be Brock. Like if anyone plays Pokemon, Brock the Pokemon trainer. Hop. Notice how there's no E? Hop. So it's a short O. If there was an E, it would be hope. Cone. Notice how there's an E, so it's a long O. Cone. If there was no E, it would be con. Top. Notice how there's no E, so it's a short O. Top. If there was an E, it would be taupe, which isn't a word. Clock. Notice how there's no E, so it's a short O. Clock. If there was an E, it would be cloak, but we spell cloak differently. Mop. Notice how there's no E? Mop. It's a short O. Mop. If there was an E, it would be mope, which is a word. Vote. Notice how there's an E at the end? Vote. So it's a long O. If there was no E, it would be vot, which is something Dracula says. I want to suck your blood. But that's not actually a word. That's just an enunciation that Dracula uses. Instead of want, it sounds more like vot. Bit. So now we're going to talk about our short I, long I from last week. Bit. Notice how there's no E? Okay, that's kind of annoying, but that's okay. Bit. So if there was so we have a short I. If it was a long I, it would be bite. Oh, hey, look, bite. So notice how there is an E? So it's a long I. Bite. Pin. Notice how there's no E? Pin. So we have short I. If we had a long I, it would be pine. Same thing with rip. Rip is short I because there's no E. And with the E, it would be ripe. All right, good job, guys. I want you to think of some words yourself that have a long O or a short O. And if you have paper, write it down while I set up the next part. You guys are doing awesome. Keep it up. All right, we're going to read the word, listen to the word, its spelling, and how to use it in a sentence by selecting the speaker buttons. And we can use the space below to type the word. Maybe I can. Oh, I can't. No, I can't. Darn. Okay. What is this word? Because. The spelling is Because. And a sentence is, I went to the store because I need milk. B E C A U S, not 5, S E, because. Friends. 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 F R I, not that I E N D S. The S's aren't agreeing with me, scholars. I don't know why. Maybe my S's just look like 5s. I have many friends, and when I don't, I can go to the buddy bench and wait for another friend. Have. H-A-V-E. Have. I have many cats. H A H A V E. Have. Picture. P I C T U R E. Picture. I have many pictures of my friends and family in my house. P I C. Mr. Cannon's thing isn't working out too well. I'm just going to use the little whiteboard thingy after I can move it. There. P I C T U R E. Picture. Oh, gotta move it over a little bit. Okay. School. S-C-H-O-O-L. School. I love coming to school because I get to see each and every one of you. S. See, it's just not working out, scholars. S. C. H. O. O. L. School. Off. O. F. F. Turn the lights off before you leave a room to save electricity. Off. O. That's a 0. O. F. F. Off. No. K. N. O. W. No. I know how to spell no. K. N. O. W. Cold. C. O. L. D. Cold. I get very cold in the mornings when I come up to work. Cold. C-O-L-D. Cold. Family. F-A-M-I-L-Y. Family. My cats are part of my family. F-A-M-I-L-Y. Family. Took. T-O-O-K. Took. I took my time getting to school because of the wind. Took. T-O-O-K. Took. Now I want you to think of your own sentence for took while I pull up the next part of our lesson, which is just one more thing, guys. We're going to read A Visit to the Desert together, okay? So Mr. Cannon's going to take some time to pull it up so we can hear the text boxes too, okay? All right. So we're going to look at the top part and we're going to read this text box.
Genre, realistic fiction. A Visit to the Desert.
So realistic fiction means that it's not a true story, but it could happen in real life. It's a possible thing to happen in real life. Now let's look at the essential question.
Essential question. How do animals survive? Read about how animals survive in a desert climate.
So how do animals survive? We're going to read about how they survive in the desert. Why is it hard for animals to survive in the desert, scholars? Take a second to think about that. Well, one thing I can think of is there's not a lot of water, not a lot of plants, and not a lot of animals. All right, let's go ahead and read the first lines.
Tim was looking forward to this vacation. Then his parents told him the family would be visiting Grandma in Nevada. Tim was unhappy. He wanted to be with his friends this summer. Grandma is eager to see you, Mom said. She can't wait to take you on a desert hike.
So notice how eager is highlighted in yellow. That means it's one of the important words we need to know. What do you think eager means? Well, eager means excited, like I'm eager to get this new video game. All right, let's look at the next one. Now we're going to read the next paragraph, and it has 3 vocab words in it.
The next morning, Grandma met them at the airport. Then they drove to the desert. As they hiked, Grandma explained that animals enjoy the open desert space. It gives them the freedom to move from place to place. Tim learned that the animals find ways to adapt to the hot desert weather. He wondered if he could get used to the desert climate.
So we have 3 words there: freedom, adapt, and climate. What do you think freedom means? Well, freedom means that you're free. Like the U.S. is a country built on freedom, so we're free to do what we want. As long as we follow some certain rules to ensure the safety of society. Adapt. What do you think adapt means? Adapt means that they get used to the climate and then they thrive. So cacti adapted to the desert because they hold water for a really long time. So cacti don't need to be watered every day. They can actually go for a long time without water. Climate. What do you think climate means? Well, climate is the kind of like the weather, the weather that the climate is or that the area is mostly. So for example, here in Oro Grande, it's a desert climate. There's not a lot of rain, there's a lot of wind, and it gets really hot or really cold. All right, let's go ahead and read the next lines.
Wow, Tim said. Look at that. The turtle carries its home on its back. Grandma smiled at Tim's excitement. Actually, she said, that is a desert tortoise. It looks for the shade made by the shadows of rocks. That's how it cools off. He burrows underground to get away from the heat. The tortoise disappeared into its burrow. Tim leaned over the hole. He could not hear a sound. I'll bet it likes the silence of its burrow, Tim whispered. I think it likes its sense of safety, too, Grandma added.
So, what is shadow? What are shadows? Well, shadows are essentially things that are made when the sun is blocked. So, for example, when you're standing out on the playground and you see that black silhouette or that black figure behind you or in front of you, depending on where the sun is, that is your shadow. And or if you go underground, there's also shadows. And then the turtle also likes silence. Now, if you've been in my class, you know that I have volume level 0, and silence is volume level 0, where you don't hear any sounds. And then sense. What do you think sense is? Well, sense has many different forms. For example, you have the 5 senses. So there's like hearing, sight, smell, touch, taste. Those are senses. But it's also sense is also how you feel. So if you have a sense of security, you feel like you're secure. All right, let's look at the next line.
That's the same feeling I get at home, Tim sighed. Just then, a large rabbit hopped by. Grandma explained that the jackrabbit's large ears help it stay cool. These animals are so unlike the animals at home, Tim said. He had forgotten about the desert heat. Some animals stay cool by sleeping during the day. Then they hunt at night, said Grandma. A great horned owl hooted above them. Grandma said, "It will soon be time for the owl to hunt."
All right, there was no vocab in there, but there was a lot of things about animals in there, like the jackrabbit has big ears to help keep it cool. That's how it adapted to the heat.
Which means it's time for us to head back, Dad added. Oh, this vacation is going by too fast, Tim said. They asked Tim about the heat. What heat? Tim asked. I feel as fresh and cool as a new flower. I've adapted. Everyone laughed.
And fresh means that you're very like a fresh vegetable. It's just you feel good. You feel really good. All right, make connections. How does the desert tortoise survive in the heat? The desert tortoise survives in the heat by using its shell and by digging burrows to stay cool. Now I want you to think of another animal that can survive in its climate. And I'll give you a couple ideas in a little while. Well, there's plenty of animals. There's camels. Camels store water in their humps. And when they store water in their humps, they can go for a long time without having to drink water, so they stock up a lot. All right, so that will be it for today's lesson.